Recently in Sync Academy, I put up a poll that you're seeing right here on your screen, and I was just curious as to the members' thinking in terms of what your perception is for what determines the value of your music in the sync licensing business. I had a member who was saying that he was given a hypothetical. Let's say that one library was going to offer him a $100 consideration fee to take his music, but he felt personally that his music should have been worth $500 per track. Should he say no to the $100 offer and hold out for a bigger one? And when I responded to them, to this particular member, I just said, well, don't take this personally, but really what you think your track should earn is completely irrelevant. It really doesn't matter, because ideally, every single one of the tracks that I've ever produced, they should all make $1 million each. That would be awesome. That'd be great, right? But what I think and what I'm inflating in terms of what I think the value of my music is, it's kind of irrelevant. What really matters is how the industry values your music. And so that's why I wanted to put this question up here, this survey basically, to kind of get you guys thinking about this, because you guys are obviously all music producers, you all create great music, but understanding the business side of licensing and understanding basically what determines essentially how much income you're going to be making in this business, what are those factors that either will bump that number up or push that number all the way down to zero. And so that's what I want to dive into with this video. So here was the question that I asked, and I want you guys all watching this video to right now pick which one of these do you think is the correct answer. And there is absolutely one of these that's a correct answer. It's not a trick question, okay? Which factor do you think affects the value of your music the most in the TV film licensing business? Okay, which one of these do you think affects the value of your music in terms of how much money you could potentially be getting for a sync fee, royalties, et cetera, et cetera? Which one of these makes the most difference, okay? The quality of the music, pretty important. The track availability, meaning if it's exclusively tied somewhere else, if you own the music, if it's been tied up with another publisher, right? If it's actually even available for the opportunity. Relevance to the placement opportunity, meaning if they're looking for a hip hop track but you supply a rock track, well, it's not really relevant because it's not exactly what they want. Uniqueness of the track, let's say it is a rock track, but your rock track is something that they could find from 24 other producers, so it's not really a very unique sound or something that's really like kind of your signature thing that you're bringing to the table. And lastly, professionalism of the producer or composer. So if they're looking for the alt mixes and the stems and things to be mastered already, they don't want to get rough mixes of anything that they have to do any final finishing touches on. So right now, I want you to decide between these 5 options. Which one do you think actually affects the value of your music the most? Give you a second to decide there. Believe it or not, it is the answer that has the least amount of people that said that they think this is the most valuable part of it, and it actually is track availability. It is the most simple aspect of your music, but I'll explain why this is actually the most valuable, the factor that it will affect your value the most, and here's why. Let's say you've got a great sounding track, it's relevant to their opportunity, it's very unique, they can't really find this track elsewhere, so they're going to have to pay a little bit more for it, and you're absolutely professional on par. They get down to the actual contract and say, great, we need to have this track exclusively or non-exclusively, and then you say, oh, by the way, this is actually tied up with another publisher. Oh, by the way, this track is not available because it's exclusively licensed with another company. Well, all of those other factors just went out the window because they can't even use the track, even though it was high quality, perfect for the opportunity, very unique, and you're being a professional about it. Doesn't matter because they can't even use the track. So believe it or not, this is the factor that will affect the value of your music the most, which is why I've always told you guys to be very aware if you have tracks that are out there. Let's say you're distributing them through iTunes or Spotify or anything like that, and you have it under any sort of a company that's distributing your music, double check on those contracts, because if you're submitting that same music to a library and there's an opportunity that comes, you haven't disclosed this side of your industry or this side of your music career and what's going on with your situation to the library, and that opportunity comes, everything else can be lined up, but if it's violating the contract that you've exclusively allowed some other company to distribute your music or publish your music, you're sunk. The entire thing is done. So this is why it's so important to make sure that 100% you own all of the music that you put together, okay? So don't be taking other people's music or sampling stuff that you shouldn't be sampling. Make sure you own 100% of the music you do. Or if you're co-writing or co-producing with somebody else, make sure that you are both on board to be able to sign for contracts, okay? Or, of course, if you're hiring musicians to help you put your stuff together, make them sign work for hire agreements so that they don't have any claim to the actual authorship or the copyright, the masters of your track, that you own those 100%, but you've paid them out their day rate to come and help you add some value to your track, okay? So that's first, is availability, actually. Number two is relevance, okay? So you could come to the opportunity, your track is available first and foremost, so they know that they can license it, okay? Now, it might be very high quality, it might be a very unique track, and it might be very, you might be very professional, that you're ready to give them everything they need very quickly, but it's the wrong sound, it's the wrong vibe, it's the wrong mood, and you're not really matching with the brief, you're not really matching the exact tone that they're really going for. So that's usually the second check mark there, that if your track, let's say, is that rock track, but they needed the hip hop one, and you're like, well, I have kind of a hip hop flavor to this rock track, it's just not going to be matching with what they really need. So that's second, what's going to basically get you through that next hurdle, get you through that next loophole to try to get to the placement, okay? Number three is then the quality. So if they are looking for hip hop and you supply that hip hop track, if you have sort of a subpar, cookie cutter, very generic, not really interesting, or maybe even outdated kind of a hip hop track, and they want something modern and fresh, there's the quality factor, okay? So it was available, it was relevant, but it's not feeling good, it doesn't sound great, it doesn't have the quality of whatever it is they're looking for. There are opportunities where they might look for the throwback appeal, and then it would be the reverse. If you supplied a modern hip hop track, but they wanted a 90s hip hop thing, then again, it just wouldn't be the right, probably more in the relevance side of that thing. But then third would be the quality there. So making sure that your track is licensable, it's up to the standards, it's well produced, well mixed, well mastered, well crafted, all that good stuff, okay? After quality would be uniqueness, okay? So again, as we talked about before, if you're supplying this hip hop track and it's high quality, it's available, and it's relevant to what they're looking for, and you really have brought a very unique sound that they can't just go find from another library, or they can't just go to like a royalty-free site to get. If you've really created some sort of, a lot of times you can get this by creating a bit of a hybrid sound where you combine hip hop with another sound, or you just have your own very unique set of sounds or approach that you have to your particular music, and you kind of create that signature for yourself. This is where basically you become irreplaceable, because they can't get that exact same sound from another producer, from another song. And so that's why I do think that it's important to, when you're in the beginning of this process, learning how to create licensable music, you don't need to really worry so much about the uniqueness of your tracks. I think if you're brand new to producing, especially TV film music, and you're trying to get your own very unique thing, sometimes you kind of can stray way too far off in the left field and try to combine 6 different genres, and there's no focus and it's all over the place. I don't think that's the way you start out in this industry. I think you start out by just getting under the umbrella of a very particular sound or genre, get some reference tracks, really try to nail that particular sound. And as you go through that learning phase, that's when you can start to experiment with things, kind of push the boundaries here and there. You don't have to push them that far, actually, to get a really unique sound that's 100% your own. And that's the next level of value that you bring to a licensing opportunity, that everything was there, and it's a really unique thing that they really just have not heard before, and they can't really get this exact same sound from anybody else. And last but not least is professionalism. Now, these are all very important, okay? So just because professionalism is at the very bottom of the list does not mean, of course, that it's not important. Because if you have all 4 of these other elements there, and then they want the track from you, and it takes you 2 weeks to get them samples, and you don't sign the contract, and you're dragging your feet, and you don't respond, and you deliver them a whole bunch of alt mixes that have errors in them. They wanted the 60-second version, you gave them a 73-second cut down, right? You start making their lives worse and creating headaches for them, you're done. And the value of your music immediately goes down. They don't want to work with you, okay? So it's very, very important. But of course, this comes after all of these other elements basically are there. And that's what I mean by professionalism. Of course, if you have high quality music, you've got professionalism. If you're making sure your track is available for an opportunity, you've shown some professionalism already, right? So in the relevance, you're paying attention to them, and the uniqueness of the track, you have obviously shown that you understand the value that can bring to your career, your licensing career, okay? But when I talk about professionalism is this last part, I'm talking about communication skills, delivering the assets they want, signing the agreements when they need those kind of things, and just being a really hungry, eager person, just a nice, friendly, likable person to work with. That's what I mean. Not somebody that's going to be demanding things and causing headaches for people and blowing people's emails up and sending an email every 3 minutes. What's going on with opportunity? What's going on? What's going on? And just constantly hounding people. But just showing some respect and obviously some professionalism for the opportunity, for if it's a library, an ad agency, whoever has the opportunity. That'll be the last basically thing that you need to make sure that you do have. So that's what will determine, those 5 factors in that order will determine the value of your music. So that's why each one of those is very important to be paying attention to those things and keeping on top of how you approach and handle yourself, obviously, as you get into this industry. So hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope that was kind of fun and revealing. And I thank you all Sync Academy members that answered this survey. I hope you guys learned something from this as well. And you guys gave me some great actual comments underneath about the insights that you guys are thinking about this stuff. So you guys are obviously well ahead of the curve, that this is something that you guys have a lot of thought that you're putting into. And definitely I hope that this video just gives you a little bit more insight from what I've seen in this industry 11 years in. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like and leave a comment. I always love reading those.